Here we come, walking down the street. Get the funniest looks from everyone with me. Hey, hey, we're the monkeys. People say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. Hey, I've got 2 viewers. Check it out. I'm so excited. Isn't anybody gonna say something? 3 viewers. 3 effing viewers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to my unplanned live casting thing. I just wrote this little thing on Facebook, and you know, 3, yeah, baby. Number 3 is a lucky number, man. So I just wrote this little thing on Facebook, and I like to write sometimes. And I guess I'm a futurist, you know? And I think about how good life could be if everyone were just doing this and that, like I explained in a previous live video. But in any case, let's see. This is what I wrote. Someday people will travel on wooden sailboats again. That's right, believe it or not. And the reason is because, you see, people won't be using plexiglass and chemical resins anymore. We'll have to go back to using the natural and original things that made boats float. And if we don't have any more fuel for the boats, well, how are they going to get around? Sails. There'll be wooden sailboats. And these will be like quality, top quality manufactured sailboats. And people won't be able to just go out and go on a cruise with 5,000 other people on a boat. And bear in mind, I'm talking about in like 500 years. Okay, there won't be cruise lines anymore. That's all just like a giant menagerie of humanity, of this time in human history, human, whatever you want to call it, the current time. But also, they'll plow the fields by hand with oxen. That's right. Since there won't be any more fuel to burn and there'll be limits on what people can do in that regard, well, how are they going to plow the fields? They won't be able to use tillers or big tractors. They'll have to go back to the good old ways. And yes, we'll still need some of those oxen or horses or donkeys, and those animals provide fertilizer for the gardens that we'll all be doing. That's another part of what I've written here. So everyone will have to use public transportation, and people will have to walk or bicycle a lot. Okay, so right now, as an example, let's say that there just was very little gas, or that gas was like $20 a gallon, and so everyone was kind of conglomerating to be able to get wherever they needed to go. And a whole lot of people had bicycles in their garages or basements, and they were like, wow, if you live where I live here, it's 10 miles into town. And so people would be like, well, how are we going to get into town, get our things done, and then get back without having to pay $10 for gas? Because if you got a big gas guzzling truck, that's what you'd use, 1 full gallon of gas to get here to Burnsville and back. And you just wouldn't be able to afford that, because the economy has now also gone to crap, and nobody's making near as much as they used to make. Have changed. And so what we have is a couple of really economical vehicles that pull a big trailer, a flatbed trailer behind them. You load all the bicycles on the trailer, pack all the people into the car, you drive into town, you unload the people in the bicycles, they go do their thing for an hour, They know that they have to come back here within an hour or whatever we designate. And then we load everybody back up and their bicycles back up and drive home. So this is like the conservative. Okay, so the conservatives out here in the country would have to learn how to be conservationists. That's right. They would have to start conserving the energy. Why? Because they were forced to, by financial reasons, by economic reasons, by governmental reasons and regulations, etc., etc. So everything will have to change. Everything. Because we've allowed people to overly fuck and create 7.5 billion, 8 billion people, whatever it is on the earth. And then we went through all this hell where they all died of disease and everything. And we learned all these lessons over the last 500 years. And so we're finally starting to learn that we just can't have everything our own little ways. We can be free. We can be free, but we have to have discipline. We actually have to have discipline. Saturn is the planet of discipline. So people will grow their own food and packaging will be all natural and biodegradable. Why? Because we learned that all of that packaging that we sent out to the landfills has toxins in it, and then those toxins got into the water. That gave a lot of people cancer. We just came over time to realize that we couldn't do things illogically and create all of this toxic yada yada in the landfills. Women won't wear sexy clothes, high heels, and makeup to attract men anymore because they don't need to, because they know that there are like rules and regulations for having babies. And if you're not prepared completely in a lot of different regards, then you're not even allowed to have any babies anyway. So it doesn't matter. You don't need to try and attract men by whatever fake means that you're doing. And those fake means are also detrimental to your health. So you've learned by educating yourself about all the chemicals in the makeup and what the high heels were doing to your knees and your back and your shoulders and your neck. And so you just don't do any of that anymore. And men won't go to the gym to work out, to build big muscles, because they're already working out at home because they've got so damn much to do. Like what I've been doing all day, digging with a pick to put up the chicken fence. So many things to do at home that you build muscle naturally, and you spend time regularly self-massaging and stretching, and that enables you to stay limber enough that you're not going to get all tight like people do when they just build up muscle all the time. You don't want that. There's an equal balance between building and breaking down and stretching and flexing, etc. So nobody will watch violent sports or movies anymore. Okay, so that's one way to tell who's evolved and who's not. Look at people that are just like freaking mongrels. Kill them! They want people to get injured. They love to watch that like violent fighting stuff on television. They love that, and they sit there and drink alcohol. It goes together perfectly, okay? Violence and alcohol. They go together perfectly. And if you see those things and you see people participating in those things, you might want to avoid them. Let's check the streaming. We got 4 people watching. Yeah, hey, Nikki. Okay, so people will spend time daily connecting with creation. And, that's one of the things that the Muslims do that's actually very strong spiritually regarding that. They pray like 5 times a day. 5 times a day. And I'm not saying that we have to go to that extent, but really, I think it's a really good thing to spend some time just sitting peacefully and connecting with whatever you choose to believe. That being said, nobody will claim to know exactly what creation is, or that their specific belief is the right one, the correct one. Because people will know better than to do that, because it's unethical and it's egotistical and it's idiotic. And there are so many religions that always say that, well, ours is the right one. And I grew up with one of those. It's called the Mormon religion. They claim that theirs is the highest form of religion today, or the correct one. And then they try and do things like not smoking or drinking, and that's all cool. But you should see how fat they are. The Mormon, Utah is the Jello capital. Utah is the Jello capital of the world. I grew up there. Okay, so all housing will be created with indigenous materials, and houses will not at all look the same. Okay, so you know how housing tracts, they all look the same. Everybody's freaking house is exactly the same, and it's all going to burn in California and Colorado and other places where there are mountains and lots of trees that can catch on fire. And then you got a whole bunch of nutcases out there that are doing drugs, prescription drugs, and then they eventually lose their minds. And then they go out and they get a gallon of gas, and they go out, hundreds of them, go out and start setting fires all over the fucking place. Humanity has so much to learn. So much to learn. I haven't gotten to the drug part yet. Stay tuned. So each person will own their own little house. So let's say that you're not getting along well with your lovers, whatever you want to call them, significant other. Well, you don't have to just stay home with each other and be at each other's throats or whatever. You get to go back to your own little home. Every single person is single, and every single person gets to go back to their own little house that they own. Or actually, nobody owns. Actually, nobody owns any houses at all or any property at all. Everything is allowed to be used. That's what we call it. It'll be called allowed to be used. And there's no more real estate game, and no more governmental bullshit games with getting licenses and zoning and fees and all of that. All of that is a bunch of crap that's just a money-making thing devised to protect people. So people, hopefully, in 500 years, people won't have to be, they won't need to be, they won't want to be protected by the government. They'll be, responsible. They'll be responsible enough to be able to build their own house logically with indigenous materials, not chemicals and petroleum products that if the house did possibly burn, then it wouldn't send clouds and clouds of crap out into the atmosphere. There are just so many things that people have to learn, and houses will be hurricane, tornado, flood, and wind proof. Houses will not be allowed in places where they cannot be protected by reasonable and progressive means. Like, there won't be houses near coasts in 500 years. There may be vacation spots that people can go to when the weather is okay, but they won't allow the building of houses anymore anywhere near coasts, because there'll have been so much global warming that all of the ice in Antarctica and the Arctic region will be completely melted, and the oceans probably will have risen a half a foot or more, and there's no way that they'll allow any more building, even beyond 50 years from now. It's all going away. Look at what's going on in New Jersey right now. The government is buying people's lands and not allowing any more building on them anymore already in coastal regions in New Jersey. It's already happening. Puerto Rico and the Bahamas, nobody will live there permanently. Those places might not even be here anymore. They'll be completely covered with water, with the ocean. So, and houses would be affordable to live in, and houses would not be a means of making money, as in the real estate game. So the other day I heard that the way that most Americans have made their money, the thing that the government or whoever, an accountant, considers what they own, the total amount that they own, the biggest thing that's made them money is real estate. Okay, so that, my friends, is wrong. Completely wrong. It's totally screwball in a world where everyone wants to own a piece of this world. So in progressive communities like the Quaker community that's close to me here, nobody owns any houses there. They're just allowed to live there and be the steward of that house. And that's it. And most houses will be simple and built by all the people that live in the house. All drugs will be natural, and it will be illegal to have patents on drugs. There won't be any patented drugs anymore. There won't be any, because they'll find that people will eventually get to the point of where they realize spiritually and physically, mentally and emotionally, that herbs are nature's medicine, God's medicine. And you can't change the compounds of the herbs. You can't take one part of the herb out and utilize that. Everything has to stay in its natural form. It has to stay in its natural form. You can't change that. And if you change that, the reason that they do that is to create a patent on that drug. And the way that that's good for them is that everyone is demanding that, and they're the only ones that can make money on it. It's a whole money-making racket scheme. Okay, so what else? Nobody will be fat and sick, and nobody will eat anything other than healthy, whole foods. Okay, there won't be any junk food. There won't be any processed foods. All the chemicals will be totally natural. And any toxic chemicals will be completely banned. All of that will be completely banned in 500 years. Maybe a lot less. A lot of these things are going to happen a lot sooner than that. And some of you might be saying, well, why are you talking about this now? Because I find it interesting to theorize on how things are going to be. So nobody will consume dairy foods like another animal's milk. Nobody will do that. And a lot of people will be having their own gardens. Most people will have their own gardens and make most of their own food, although there will still be trade. And there'll probably be great big sailing ships again, like there was in the 1800s. And it's kind of interesting to think that, see, that's how things work. Things eventually come back around. Things do come back around. And people like the Amish that are doing things like in many of the same ways that they've been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years, they're preserving those traditions for a reason. And it's a great thing. It's a very good thing. And a lot of indigenous tribes in South America, Africa, Mongolia, places like that, they're preserving their knowledge about the herbs so that they can pass that on down to scientists that can test the herbs in scientific and logical ways to prove exactly whether or not they actually work for a specific ailment. And so everything will eventually come around. And remember that everything that's happening, everything that has happened in the past, everything that's happening now, and everything that's going to happen in the future is supposed to be that way. It's all supposed to be that way. And it's really hard a lot of the times to accept that when it's happening, something bad is happening specifically to you. It's really hard. And that's where the praying comes in, connecting. Okay, so a lot of people are starting to realize that the little coincidences that happen in their lives are not coincidences. They are transmissions to and from you and your life out into the world. Okay? So another one of those happened to me today, where a customer that called in, his first and last name were both directly connected to some extreme things that have been happening to me that are totally unrelated. Supposedly unrelated, but not, because everything is connected. This muscle right here, is connected, believe it or not, from a long ways away to the muscles in my toes. The muscles in my head are connected to the muscles in my toes from a long way away, with a lot of muscles in between, but they are connected. And the thoughts that I was having and have been having today and in previous days are connected to a guy in Hawaii that placed an order from me on the phone today. Hawaii, thousands and thousands of miles away. I was projecting, I was transmitting energy out there, and he received it, got on the internet, found my phone number, bam, called me, placed an order. And his first and last name were a dead giveaway that it was all divine intervention. Absolute 100% divine intervention. And the more you do good things, the more you do whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing in this world, the more you make a transition to get somewhere where you know you're needing to be, whether it be a job or a place to live or whatever it may be. The more you take a step, the more you make a phone call, the more you do whatever it is you need to do to achieve that instead of being stuck, the more the universe will reciprocate to bring you exactly what you need to be able to achieve that goal. It's absolutely true. I know it because I've been living it and realizing it, seeing it and remembering it and manifesting it for my whole life, but I didn't really start to get it until I was in my mid-20s, like 25. I didn't start to put the 2 and 2 together. This is my spirituality. Okay, a lot of people have their spirituality from books and from this and from that. Okay, whatever. This is my spirituality, and my spirituality is coming from what I see, hear, think, and feel in this world. And it's good enough for me, baby. So let's take a look real quick. Hi, Brett, I caught you live. Hello, I like your blue eyes. Thank you, Sleepy Pills. I do not recommend Sleepy Pills, but thank you anyway. Hey, Brett, you're right. No one can change the divine plan. The vortex is welcoming. Yes! So, let's see. Another thing that's really cool is the history guy on YouTube. And I just sent this link to some friends of mine. And you all are somewhat friends of mine. You must be if you like to watch me on YouTube. The video is called Virginia Hill Super Spy. And I'm going to put the link to that.
There was a spy whom the Axis considered to be one of those
Control C. Stream. Control V. Okay. So there you go. There's the link to an awesome video of this woman that was rather a daredevil. She was very determined, and the kids knew it from the time that she was in school. And there's some quotes from the kids in her yearbook, her high school or whatever yearbook, specifically stating exactly what they knew, how they knew what she was, and what her demeanor was. And it's a really, really cool history video about this woman that was just fearless, pretty much. Fearless and really smart. And so check that out in that link right there. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope that you are doing well.